go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Masters Fantasy Podcast brought to you by MastersFantasyFootballLeagues.com. It's Masters Monday Mania. We're going to be doing a recap of week 2. It's our first time back recording since the season started, so we can sprinkle a little bit of week 1 in there, too. Right before we jump into it, just want to thank all you guys at home for another successful season at Masters. I also want to give these two a big shout out, man. Two of our draft coordinators. You guys made a great team handling the drafts this year. Can't thank you guys enough. How's football been so far?
It's been great. I'm so happy to have football back. I've just been enjoying it. Fantasy team's been doing well too, so I can't complain. It's been everything I've wanted, and it's good to be back.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, honestly. I got to go to a game this weekend. It was just amazing being back in the stadium with a full stadium instead of 25% capacity or whatever. So it's the best time of the year. The weather's starting to change a little bit, and it's just couldn't be happier. So
same here. That was one of the big takeaways for me in week 1, the energy, seeing the fans in the stadium gave me chills at home. I was like so pumped for those first games. That's great. Let's jump into week 2, man. I'm going to start out with the San Francisco Philly game, and actually want to direct this at you, Evan. I haven't talked to you since you did the last podcast with us. Man, what a great call you made on Elijah Mitchell. Me and John Beast were talking about it after week 1, joking like, hey, man, if you guys would have listened to Evan, it would have saved you almost 200 blind bidding dollars. Great call, my man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And honestly, I didn't expect, like I think I said in that podcast, I didn't expect him to get a role so soon. But with Trey Sermon being that healthy scratch week 1 and him just, having the opportunity to come in and show what he can do, I think he's the number 1 pickup this week for pretty much every single league. And, it's awesome because I had him stashed on 2 dynasty leagues. But yeah, week 2, he was a little, didn't have that same type of performance he had week 1, but I'm not too worried about it. I think, moving forward, Elijah Mitchell is somebody that is going to really, win people leagues. But yeah, I appreciate that. So
yeah, I'm a fan of JaMychal Hasty too. I feel like he's been pretty effective in the passing game and as a runner too. Not to say Mitchell hasn't been effective, but Hasty was around. I think he was I don't remember yards per carry, but he looked really good. And then Sermon too got a chance, first carry. He did take a couple of headshots, but also a fumble. So not a great look for him either, and a concussion on top of it. So at this point, like redraft wise, Sermon, it's bottom of the barrel.
I think one takeaway I wanted to bring up from that game or from those teams, Jalen Hurts, currently sitting at number 8 overall in fantasy. We talked about a possible quarterback that could surprise and finish at the top 5 this year. I think Hurts, man, has a chance. He's looked pretty good so far.
Yeah, I got to give it to him. He, especially week 1. I know the Falcons really stink, but he looked good, made some really good throws. And then today he looked pretty good too. Not great, but the 80 yards rushing and the touchdown really helped save his throwing performance. So, he's been very, very good thus far. So kind of eat my words a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I do a lot, so it's fine. I'm used to it.
Yeah, like you both, I agree on Hurts. I think the doc and I went back and forth a little bit before the season about how we thought Hurts was going to do. And, I was always a Hurts supporter. I think just the rushing upside alone for him in fantasy is just something that it's too hard to ignore. And I think the Eagles, with that roster, are going to be, down in games, and Hurts is going to have to do a decent amount. So, like you said, I like Hurts. I like Hurts' upside to finish as maybe as a top 5 QB this year, to be honest.
Yeah, I like it too. And going to move on to the next game. Just wanted to add one thing. Looks like Devontae Smith can play at this level.
Yeah, he's looked good. I tell you what, he's looked good.
I haven't seen him out there throwing blocks today, which I thought was pretty interesting.
I like it.
Going to move on to the next game here on the slate. We got the Denver-Jacksonville game. Denver wins. Trevor Lawrence, not his best day today. Your guys' thoughts from that game?
I have a couple of takeaways from this game. One thing for sure is that I feel like Marvin Jones, I mean, I know we talk Dynasty a lot, but Marvin Jones seems to be the guy in Jacksonville for now that Trevor Lawrence kind of trusts. He's been like the go-to guy, 2 weeks, consistent, a lot of targets. He's basically at an average of 18 points per game. So, I mean, through 2 weeks, I mean, 2 weeks could be an overreaction, but thus far, he's been the most consistent weapon in Jacksonville. And also the other one is Cortland Sutton. I mean, we knew the spot would be opened up. I mean, whether it would be Tim Patrick, who also had a touchdown today, or, Hamler, we expected people to do a little more with Jeudy being out. And Sutton, no touchdown, didn't even matter. 9 catches, 159 yards, solid day. Very excited to see him back. I mean, I know they've been talking up his recovery from his knee injury, saying how good he looks and all that. So, I mean, I think he's back. So, and that kind of hurts for the Jeudy owners too, because now when Judy's healthy, how's that picture look? Because he's going to be building a lot of rapport with Teddy over the next however many weeks.
Yeah, I agree with those takeaways. Sutton he's looked like he was supposed to look last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think we kind of all maybe forgot about him a little bit just due to the injury and him missing all that time.
Right.
So we fixated on Jeudy a little bit, but yeah, he's looked amazing. My takeaways from that game are, I think I gave the Broncos a little flack for starting Teddy over Drew. But I think through these first 2 games, they've proved me completely wrong. Teddy went 26 of 34 today for 328 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, that's as good as you can ask for out of a quarterback. And then also Noah Fant. Noah Fant's kind of a guy that I was big on coming into the season. And the first 2 weeks, he's put together some solid fantasy performances. He had a touchdown today, 4 catches, 33 yards a touchdown. I mean, that's not horrible for a tight end. That's somebody that, tight end's not the strongest position scoring wise. So he's somebody that you could have got towards the end of drafts. And so far he served you well.
Yeah, I felt pretty confident putting Fant in my lineup today, actually. When I was scrolling through, submitting lineups, felt good. I felt good, especially with Jeudy not being there. I agree with you guys on Cortland Sutton. I know that had to feel good for all you Dynasty owners out there that have been holding on to Sutton. Look like the real deal. It'll be interesting to see when Jeudy does get back on the field. I do know that's going to help Bridgewater out. That's your guy, Doc. Two years in a row now, he's made you look good. So
absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's not pretty. He doesn't throw. He's not particularly aggressive, but he gets the job done. And I mean, hey, supported 3 top 25 receivers last year without an injury. He would have finished like around top 12, I think, is where he was before he got hurt. So, I mean, hey, he's just productive. What can I say?
Yeah, and with all the injuries at quarterback today, very well could be a nice waiver wire pickup next week.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure how rostered he is. I imagine it's not too much. I think that'll change after this week.
Yeah, I would agree, especially with some other quarterbacks, not playing too well, which we'll get to. There's a few.
Actually going to jump into that right now. Next game I'm looking at, we got the New Orleans Saints, Carolina Panthers. Jameis Winston looked absolutely amazing in week 1.
Yeah.
Although didn't have many yards throwing, them 5 touchdowns came out today, really struggled. On the other side, man, I thought Sam Darnold looked pretty good. Your guys' thoughts, any takeaways from this game?
Yeah. Same thing. Go ahead, Evan. No, I went first last time. You got it.
What I was going to say is my biggest takeaway from this game is I'm a little worried about Kamara right now, to be honest with you. I have a couple shares of him myself in redraft. Week 1, he had a solid performance, but to me, like, the touches just aren't there right now, especially in the receiving game. Through the first 2 weeks, he only has 7 catches, and that just seems off for somebody that, that's his bread and butter in fantasy. So, I'm a little worried about Kamara. He had 8 carries for 5 yards today, which is, again, I mean, that's just tough sledding for him. And, he was drafted pretty much universally as a 3rd, 4th running back, 3rd, 4th pick off the board. And, that's not something you want to see out of your top pick.
Right.
And I think,
that was crushing.
I think you got to keep the faith with them, but what are they doing? I mean, no Michael Thomas. I mean, he's basically their only weapon on offense. I just don't understand how he's not getting the touches. That's head scratching. It really is.
Yeah, because that's the thing too, is that I feel like they always do. They never like give him too many touches. They do try to limit him, and he's just usually super productive with those. But I mean, yeah, the drop off in receptions is the big thing, because that's where he always eats up at least some targets and has a respectable game. But today it was, pretty bad all around. The only thing I wanted to point out is that I think, last year it kind of weirdly flipped to Robbie Anderson as the number one in Carolina, but it's going back the way it should go. DJ Moore, I feel like he's really solidified himself. 11 targets again today. So he's been consistent thus far. And he's been the most targeted guy on that team. So it's good news for everybody that, I mean, really, you bought low on DJ Moore this year because people weren't exactly sure how that would shake out. But I like what I see. I think he's kind of back to where he was going into last season.
Yeah, I agree. Also good to see, the running back on the other side there, Christian McCaffrey, getting some game action. Looks like, he's going to reclaim his spot as, the number one running back in the league. I know last week me and you played, Evan. You put a beating on me with that trio of running backs. And I'd given him McCaffrey in a trade. I thought this was something funny about that because I had Amari Cooper in the Thursday game. So it gives you the probability. So after the 40 points I put up with Cooper, and I owned Cooper quite a bit. I went through all my leagues. All the other leagues put me at like a 99% or 90% chance to win. Versus you with only Cooper gone, it was 60-40.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like, man, this guy's going to be tough to beat this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I really like that team a lot, to be honest. They put up 173 today. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
One more thing from this game real quick before we move on I want to mention is the preseason phenom of Marquez Callaway is really not showing up in the regular season so far. So. That's a little disappointing for the people that bought high on him. And, for the first 2 weeks, he's not really doing what everyone expected.
Right. So. I will say, too, it's been just they've been in two weird games. Like, it just seemed like the Saints were just going 3 and out every time. They had to, because, like, Jameis had a relatively good completion percentage, and, like, they just didn't have, like, a lot of runs or passes. I don't know. It was weird. And then, from that, do we really even know what that offense looks like yet? Because last week too, I mean, short field, weird game, a lot of turnovers by the Packers. I mean, 150 yards and 5 touchdowns. I mean, that doesn't really match up. So it's like, it's weird. I still don't really feel comfortable with anybody on that team or Kamara either. Like at this point, it's just a total unknown. So I feel like I'm kind of staying away from the Saints period for now. Obviously, you got to start Kamara, but I don't know.
Yeah, outside of Kamara, I mean, that's it. I started Jameis in a league this week. I regretted it pretty quickly, but
I picked him up in a couple of leagues. I started him in one of the leagues too. Yeah.
I started him over. I started him over Tua though, so it actually wasn't that bad. We'll get to that later. Next game up though, going to be taking a look at this Rams Indianapolis game. Carson Wentz goes down. Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp look like the new Montana Rice. Look like these guys are going to be unstoppable this season. Your guys' thoughts, any takeaways from this game? I know for sure we're getting ready to talk about Cooper Kupp, though.
Absolutely. It's hard not to because, we talked about Cooper Kupp a lot in the preseason. We talked him up big time along with Stafford. That pairing we were all very excited about. And even though for the most part, Robert Woods was being drafted ahead of Cooper Kupp, I think I could speak for the Dynasty Owl, who's not here tonight. And I think the Commish too. I think all 3 of us thought, Cooper Kupp was going to be the one you wanted with Stafford. And it's been that way thus far, but Robert Woods hasn't been too bad either. So, Cooper Kupp, I honestly wouldn't be shocked if he finished in the top 3 this year. I just think he's going to continue to get peppered with targets, and he's just amazing. If he stays on the field, it's going to be more of the same.
Yeah, I agree. And, I'm going to come out here and say, maybe not a hot take, but here's my bold prediction is that he finishes wide receiver number 1 if he stays healthy.
I like it.
I don't know why. It's just like, I can't tell you why it works. But for some reason, I think we all just knew in our head that Cooper Kupp and Matt Staff would be the amazing connection that it has been so far.
Right.
It just seems like that type of wide receiver is just perfect for how Matt Staff plays. And we've seen it. We've seen it already through 2 weeks. And, the Rams as a whole team have looked awesome offensively. So I think we're going to see more of the same the rest of the season. And, I think Robert Woods still has a solid season, but I think Cooper Kupp continues to just eat and put up a ton of catches. And he's scoring touchdowns too right now, which is something that, that it might not be so typical for him. So,
the one year he finished like top 5, that was why he finished so high, is because he actually had the touchdowns to go with the receptions. And then I think it was either last year or the year before, the touchdowns dropped off, so he dropped off. And now touchdowns are back. Mix that with all those catches. I mean, it's lethal. Great value thus far. Great return on that where you picked them.
Yeah, he's won me like 4 or 5 games the last 2 weeks. Just flat out won the games for me. The guy I was grabbing in the 5th round. You're right, man. What a great value. On the flip side, though, Carson Wentz goes down today. I didn't think Jonathan Taylor looked great through these first 2 weeks. Any concern there?
I have some concern. I had concern going into this year. I don't know. I feel like I just had a feeling people were going to really key on Jonathan Taylor, and even though their offensive line's good, I don't know. It's just something about it just seemed off to me for as high as he was getting drafted, and Wentz hasn't really helped thus far for Jonathan Taylor, but I don't know. It's interesting because, again, Nyheim Hines is really still taking a lot of the receiving work, even though Taylor had quite a few catches week 1. I don't know. I'm not really big on him right now. I wasn't really big on him to begin with, but I am a little bit worried.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that. I think I'm pretty much in the exact same boat you are on Jonathan Taylor. I actually own 0 shares of him in any of my leagues. He was just somebody that, I'd rather have the guys that were being drafted around him for some reason.
Right. I just didn't like his price.
Yeah, the price, and I don't know, it just seemed, like you said, off. So yeah, I don't know what you think, Commish, about Jonathan Taylor, but that's kind of what
I've never been that big on him. Although, I mean, he finished the season really strong last year. I've never bought completely in either. I mean, I don't have a ton of shares, but I'm definitely a little concerned. I mean, you just want to see this guy come out and be the bell cow back that he was advertised to be. It just hasn't showed up yet, so a little concerned, but we'll see. Plenty of season left. I know we were talking pretty much the same about him week 2 last year.
Right.
Concerned, and then all of a sudden, I mean, he took off. The rest was history. I'm going to move on to the next game on the slate. A really good game I watched today. Pretty good. The Cincinnati-Chicago game. I think the big takeaway from that game was probably Andy Dalton going down, and Justin Fields maybe getting his start of his NFL career. We'll see, man. I'm not sure how serious the injury was. Your guys' thoughts? Any takeaways from this game?
Yeah. So my biggest takeaway is look at Jamar Chase so far. That's such a strong start to his rookie campaign after all those concerns in the preseason. He kind of came out. He only had 2 catches for 54 yards today, but he had a long 44-yard touchdown again. And he's just looked like he has all the potential in the world, like we all thought he would out of college. And, that's got to feel good for everybody that drafted him at the top of rookie drafts. And we're kind of concerned with all the preseason news surrounding him. And for him to come out and, put together a few good performances, that's, like I say, that's got to feel good. Yeah, and that's my biggest takeaway, because I gave a lot up to trade up to get Jamar Chase in the league. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it's good to hear, especially for a guy that can't catch.
Right.
Yeah, for me, I'll say Burrow isn't even playing super well, but at the same time, he's carrying 3 receivers that are all producing. Boyd, is getting a lot of catches. Higgins has had a touchdown each of the first 2 weeks. Jamar Chase has had a touchdown each of the first 2 weeks. And, Mixon has been used in the passing game as well. So I think overall, I'm happy that Burrow's been able to work it around and get everybody involved. Because at this point, I mean, you can start like 4 people on the Bengals offense and feel pretty confident in it. So that's a solid point for me. I think that was really my only big takeaway. Yeah, that's really it. The running backs both kind of disappointing, which I don't really know if that was the flow of the game. I didn't watch that one, but that was pretty much it.
All right, good stuff. Going to move on to this next game, and I'm looking at the scoreboard here, man. Kind of a shocking score. Buffalo 35, Miami nothing. Obviously, Tua goes down pretty early in this game. Injury didn't look good, man. Looked like he was in a lot of pain. I haven't seen an update on it yet. I don't know if you guys have either. On the flip side, man, Josh Allen, Singletary. I mean, Buffalo, I seen a stat during that game, too. I think the last 5 times they played, Buffalo had put up like an average of 39 points against Miami. Just kept on rolling today. Your guys' thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's not a whole lot. Devin Singletary continues to be consistent and good. Zach Moss comes back. It's a couple of touchdowns.
That was nice.
Yeah. And Josh Allen still just doesn't look quite right. I mean, he had a decent day, but I mean, based on what we saw him doing a year ago, it doesn't look quite as good yet, which I kind of hinted at. I tweeted that out last week. I mean, I think it's more realistic that we see kind of a hybrid of last year and how he looked his first 2 seasons, which isn't bad. He'll still be consistent, but I don't know. Something looks off with Diggs. He doesn't really seem to be hitting him as much this year. I don't know. Something looks off with that offense right now, but I mean, overall, I don't really have a whole lot of concerns or takeaways other than that, because it's just, I mean, the Dolphins, there wasn't really a whole lot to say that game. I mean, you lose your quarterback that early, it was kind of done.
I think Doc, I think we talked about this before the year started, but I was a little concerned going into the year about Josh and Diggs, because last year for me just seemed a little bit too magical to come into this year and repeat. It would be hard to do that, and I think we're seeing that so far. My biggest takeaway so far from this game is Myles Gaskin. A lot of people were big on Gaskin coming into the year as kind of a mid-round guy to kind of round out your running back room.
Yeah, shout out to Fantasy Sharks.
Right. Yeah, 20th ranked player.
Guys were timing out, yeah, like in the 3rd, 4th round. We're all like, what? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And, just based off, because I think they were so excited about what he was able to do last year as kind of a guy coming out of nowhere. But first 2 games, he's got 9 carries and 5 carries. That can't feel good about that. I don't know how much he's been used in the passing game, let me check right here. He has 9 catches, which is okay. But he's just not somebody who's been producing, and overall that offense has just looked very lackluster. So he's a guy that I'm not even going to even come close to starting in pretty much any format. So
I do love
that's
it
kind
too.
of my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I faded him, and all these people, like, it was one of those situations where Brian Flores was like, oh, it's going to be a committee. It's going to be a committee. It's going to be a committee. And all the people that were hyping up Myles Gaskin were like, oh no, he's the starter. He'll get all this. So it's kind of nice to see it be a committee and see Myles Gaskin look pretty average.
Yeah, because that's what he's looked average. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which is kind of what you always thought he would look like. But I mean, there was a little bit of hope. But I never understood his ADP at all. So, and I'm not starting any Dolphins for a while. I don't know. I can't see it. Waddle has looked okay though.
If Tua's playing, I feel pretty good about Waddle. But besides that, yeah, I'm a little worried otherwise.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do a show on that soon too. A lot of these rookie wide receivers, I think, have looked really well this season.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, gonna move over to the next game here. Mac Jones, starting quarterback for your New England Patriots, 25-6 over the Jets. I don't think that surprised anybody. I don't even. When's the last time the Jets beat the Patriots?
It's probably been so long.
Right, like Mark Sanchez, maybe.
Yeah. Revis Island, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's probably been a long time.
Yeah, one takeaway I will say from this game. Hey man, Damian Harris looks pretty good. He's a guy that it looks like you're going to be able to start going forward at running back. But this is Bill Belichick, so I'll pass it to you guys. You guys think maybe you can starting Damian Harris and feel good about it?
I think so. I have him in a few leagues, and for me, what I like to look for is actually watching him. For me, he passes the eye test when he runs the ball. He's been, he seems, comparing him to like Myles Gaskin. You look at Myles Gaskin, you're like, okay, he's kind of an average player. If you look at Damian Harris, to me, it looks like he's running with authority. He's running well. In that Patriots offense with a rookie quarterback, I think his usage is going to be up there. And yeah, I think Damian Harris is a guy you could definitely start moving forward, especially at like a flex position, or something like that.
Right. I definitely felt a lot better about him once they announced that Ramondre Stevenson was inactive. And another guy too, James White. Yeah. James White had another great day. I mean, it's awesome because I talked about James White all the time when we first started doing the pod before they like got Cam Newton. And I think we're going to see like top 15 James White again. It's been pretty consistent. He's back to his old role, eating up targets, getting touchdowns. I love it. He's probably still on your waiver wire in most cases too. I mean, I've seen him in a couple of my leagues already. I got my eye on him.
There you go. And through these first two games too, it makes me wonder, like, why didn't they use him last year? Like,
yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, because he was a guy I was picking. I mean, James White, one of the sneakiest running backs for the last decade almost. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. I just couldn't understand why they quit using him last year. And Zach Wilson, man, I seen a stat at one point today. I don't quite remember what it was, but it was terrible. I think he had 4 interceptions.
He threw 4 total.
Any concerns there? Or, I mean, just a young guy playing a tough defense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super concerned. Belichick is just, I mean, he dominates rookie quarterbacks. And, I mean, he also lost his left tackle last week. And even with his left tackle a week ago, he was getting pressured like crazy. So he's just like forcing things, trying to make something happen. But, it's rookie mistakes. I'm not worried about him long term. But, yeah, he did have more interceptions than completions at halftime. So that's
what I saw too.
Yeah, and I figured that was the stat. That was pretty bad.
He tricked me. He lost me a game. Had me thinking I could start Corey Davis today.
Yeah. I almost started Corey Davis, and I thought, I don't know.
I mean, something told me not to, but I was looking at them bench points last week. I'm like, all right, I know. Man, let me get him out here. Kind of hurt.
Right, maybe one cheap touchdown or something, but
yeah. All right, going to move on to the next game here. Our Browns get off the schneid, get us a win. Another quarterback goes down, and Tyrod Taylor. Your guys' thoughts on the game today and the Browns' first win of the season?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ev.
Oh, okay. I was say my thoughts are, I have a few thoughts because, as I alluded to, this is the game I was at, so I got to see it in person. My first thought is Baker through 2 weeks has looked really sharp. Today he goes 19 of 21 for, 213. He has a touchdown and a pick, but I don't put too much into that. I think the touchdowns will come. Baker's looked really sharp. 2, Jarvis Landry injury going down is going to be huge for Odell moving forward. And I think it's going to open up, a spot for somebody else to emerge in that offense. Maybe Demetric Felton, who knows? And then also my other takeaway was Tyrod looked incredible before he got hurt. He looked incredible last week. And I don't know what was going on. It's a shame he got hurt, but it seems to me going to the Texans was, something to relight his career already. I mean, again, so, one more thing. Also, Mark Ingram, surprise. He's just emerged as their number 1 back out of nowhere. I think everyone before the season was looking at David Johnson. They were looking at Phillip Lindsay, but Mark Ingram's the clear number 1 guy there. He had 14 carries. The next closest guy had 6 today. So, I mean, he's the bell cow there. And I think that's all pretty interesting. So,
yeah. It's funny too because it was just like a foregone conclusion in my mind that he would be the 3rd running back.
Me too.
And now he's just eating up all the targets and carries. But I mean, for me, it's Brandon Cooks. He's been so impressive through 2 weeks, and partially that's been because of Tyrod Taylor. But I mean, yeah, Brandon Cooks, he's a guy that I feel like a lot of people, I mean, he's been bounced around so many teams. I feel like he just doesn't have that much respect across the league anymore. And I mean, he's still relatively young, and he's looked incredible in that number one role. I mean, right now he's on pace to finish, I don't even know number wise, but it's definitely top 10. He's been awesome thus far.
Yeah.
And he just gets a ton of targets a game.
I'm basically giving him the unstoppable tag now. You can't stop that guy. I don't care who the quarterback. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. And I was just sitting there thinking as you guys were talking, like the best job to have in the NFL if you want to play is going to be a backup to Tyrod Taylor. That never fails. I mean, that guy has the worst luck. And I actually have a few Superflex teams with Davis Mills. I mean, who I basically, just picked him up because look, I mean, every time, it happened with Baker, happened with Herbert. Why not, man? I'm taking a shot. But he did look great, man. I hated to see him go down today.
I know.
But hey, man, the Browns got to win. Nick Chubb looked great, although I mean, not a ton of carries again.
It was just a weird game.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was at home screaming a little bit. They kept giving the ball to the fullback. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
I know. Like, you don't have to trick. You got the best running back duo in the entire country. I mean, in the world, there is no dynamic duo better than those two. And it's like, why give it to the fullback? But that's all right.
All right, going to move on to the next game. We're all Browns fans. I also love this next game here. The Raiders beat the Steelers. Kind of a shocking game. I'm shocked. I would have never predicted that. Your guys' thoughts? Go ahead.
Henry Ruggs. That's all I have to say. And Deontay Johnson too. But Henry Ruggs finally, he got hit for a deep ball touchdown. He actually got the ball a little more than just like, hey, run deep and we'll huck it up there and see what happens. So that was nice. I mean, could be a coming out party. I don't know. And I tell you what, too, another thing, we talked about quarterbacks on your waiver wire that have been good. Derek Carr's put two real good games together thus far. And as unsexy as Derek Carr is in terms of like fantasy, I mean, he's been producing. I mean, that's a guy. I mean, he's a guy I'm looking at in a lot of my leagues where I have guys like Tannehill that have been like underperforming. So, I mean, he's definitely on your waiver wire. So definitely worth an ad, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. I actually wrote down Derek Carr in my notes because that's really my main takeaway from the first 2 weeks. Just to throw out a few stats here for Derek Carr. Through 2 weeks, he has 817 yards and 4 touchdowns. That is massive. That is absolutely massive. And who would have thought that that's something we're seeing from Derek freaking Carr?
Right.
Against the Ravens and Steelers, teams with 2 good defenses. I mean, that's not like your bottom 10 defenses in the league. I mean, those are reputable, good defenses that he's doing this against. So I think Derek Carr is definitely someone worth keeping your eye on moving forward. So that's my main takeaway.
Go ahead.
I also want to say too about Najee. Oh, Byron Pringle just scored. Wow.
Yeah.
Najee Harris.
My dude.
So week 1, he played every single offensive snap. I don't know what the breakdown was today, but I would assume it was probably pretty close to the same. And today, last week, it was pretty rough. This week, running the ball, still going to be brutally rough for him. I mean, I said it in our season shows that I thought he'd be around like 3 yards to carry. That's pretty much what he's been at. But this week, 5 targets, 5 catches, 43 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's the only reason that, I had any value in him in the first place this year is just because of his upside as a receiver in that offense where they're going to dump it down. So more of that is good by me. Najee moving in the right direction. Everything we thought was going to be the case has been the case thus far. So it's nice to see him actually get the targets this week.
Yeah, great takes, guys. I know all the Ruggs owners were jumping for joy when they seen that today. I'm probably still scared to start him next week. But maybe this is it, man. It'd be good to see him get on a roll. I'm going to move on to my favorite game of the day. I was going to be the Minnesota-Arizona game. What a great, fun game to watch. Kyler Murray, man, looking like the MVP of the league. I mean, dude, I don't know what to say about him. Like, he looks amazing, firing on all cylinders. Your guys' thoughts take away from the Arizona Minnesota game?
Yeah, same thing as you, Commish. I had in my notes Kyler MVP in real life and in fantasy. He was looking like that number one pick, 2 or 3 years ago or whatever it was. He's just so hard to stop. He can do it all. He's got the weapons. Rondale Moore goes for a huge game for him this year. He's not even in this top like 2 weapons to have. I mean, maybe he's emerging as one, but I don't know. It just seems like that offense is so geared towards what Kyler does well with, being able to run the ball, running RPOs, just everything. And he's just becoming a fantasy, just MVP. And that's the only words I can use to describe him. And that was just a fun game to watch all around. Dalvin had a good game on the other side. Kirk Cousins had a good game.
Dalvin was so disappointing because he was at 100 yards like at halftime and still didn't really end up like super high score. That was tough.
It's to your credit, Rondale Moore, man. I was thinking when I was watching that game, like, he's looking to me like that second round receiver that we were all looking for some value out of. Like, he's looking like he might be the one that you grabbed in the second round that pays off for you right now.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like that receiver that carved up Ohio State in college again. That's what he's looking like.
Yeah.
I had to bring that up, man. Go ahead.
He did it, not me. I didn't do it. I just wrote my notes, Kyler MVP as well. So, I mean, there's really nothing else to say about Kyler. I will say on the other side of the ball, another quarterback. Again, it's not sexy, but Kirk Cousins. I mean, he's been producing as well too, and I mean, their defense has looked a little suspect. So, I mean, he's going to be throwing the ball. As great as Dalvin is, I mean, they like to run the ball, but they're going to have to throw to stay in these games. And, I mean, I don't know what you think about Kirk Cousins, but at the end of the day, he's throwing to one of the best receiving duos in the NFL. So, I think that's enough for me to pick him up too. Just give him a shot. Because, again, guys, there's other quarterbacks that have been really underperforming, and guys like that have been performing pretty well.
Yeah, and another guy I got to ask you guys about. He was a guy I overlooked on the waiver wire last week. Was one of the top added players. Came out, looked great again today. KJ Osborne, man, your guys' thoughts? Can this guy keep this up and be a valuable piece in this Minnesota offense?
I mean, I think so. That's always been the question, is who's going to take that third role. I mean, that was the whole debate going into this season for them. So, I mean, he's taken his chances and he's been pretty freaking good thus far. So I think it's his. I think he's got it.
Yeah, 14 points week 1, 20 today. And he was a guy I almost picked up. I kept thinking, I just was having a hard time finding a roster spot for him. I'm regretting it today.
Yeah, it's tough. He's going to be pretty pricey now.
Yeah,
you'd think.
All right,
I agree.
Go ahead. Going to move on to this next game. I mean, dude, Tom Brady, the gift that just keeps on giving. I was just watching him again this game. I'm thinking, like, nobody's stopping Tom Brady, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's going to be tough to stop this guy from winning another Super Bowl. And in fantasy, I mean, dude, he's winning you games. He's spreading points around everywhere. On the flip side, Atlanta, I don't know, man. I'm not a big Matt Ryan guy. But your guys' thoughts on this game, fantasy wise, real life? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Ryan. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. I'll just say, Matt Ryan threw like pick 6 on like back-to-back drives. That was really funny. And yeah, the Buccaneers, it's just like they're playing with their food. I mean, it's like over, and then they like let them get back into it, and then they just stomp their throats again. I mean, it's ridiculous. They look really good. The only things I have are Gronk is back. I think like old school Gronk is back. 4 touchdowns through 2 games. I mean, I honestly, I think Brady kind of wants to do that too. I feel like last year Gronk was still kind of getting in the swing of things through the first half of the season, and now I think Brady like wants to prove a point and like get his boy some inflated stats. So I think it's going to be more Gronk. I'm still heartbroken that I didn't have enough blind bidding money to to get him in our one dynasty where I desperately need a tight end. So that hurt.
Yeah. And, we were talking about it last week. I was talking to John Beast about it. I'm like, man, like how wrong were all the fantasy pundits, man? Like I'm in like 20 leagues. Gronk was a free agent in like 8 of them. And more of the same this Sunday. And I actually had a question. I know, man. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. I'm not knocking them off the number 1 spot for a quarterback tight end. But man, if Gronk and Brady could keep this up, any chance that he's not the number 1 tight end this year? Kelce, I mean.
Gronk. Yeah, I honestly do think it will be Gronk.
Really?
I think they've set out for it. I just can't see how Gronk could be on a pace like this, getting targeted like this. It's completely different than it was last year. Hollywood Brown just scored on a relatively long touchdown. Wow. And yeah, I just think, I don't know. I just think they're going to make it a point to go out there and just like get Gronk touchdowns and just let him eat. I think he's back. He looks a lot better than he did last year. Like, I just think the time he took off, I mean, it was probably helping him be rusty at first last year, but I think it's paid dividends. He just looks like the same old Gronk again.
Yeah, I don't think, from my personal opinion, I don't see them ending up as, the number 1 quarterback tight end duo. I think Gronk realistically finishes top 5. I personally don't know if they could keep this pace up. Gronk, I'm just worried about his injury history. I don't know how long or if he can stay healthy the whole year. And I'm personally, I kind of slept on him before the season, but after the first 2 weeks, I'm looking at Waller to take that number 1 tight end spot.
Even after today?
Even after today, I really think just the amount that he gets targeted, they might not all be catches, but the amount that Waller gets targeted to me, that's how I think that's the recipe to become the number 1 tight end.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's close.
The one thing I will say about the Patriots, the Bucks, is that they do play in such a weak division. I don't know. It's not looking so weak right now, but I do think it is a weak division. I think the Falcons twice. The Saints looked not that great today. So I don't know. I just think he does have a good chance to finish top 5 just due to those factors. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, and it could be a little early to be putting Gronk up that high. I just think, before the season started, pretty much a foregone conclusion. It was between Waller and Kelce, and pretty much everybody thought Kelce would be one. I just think, when you look at it, Gronk probably the greatest tight end, ever in NFL history, the greatest quarterback tight end for sure, I think. So just the fact that, it wasn't even on anybody's radar, just kind of shocks me a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be interesting to see. And I'm actually with Doc, man. I kind of think, Brady's this one thing I know about Tom Brady does what he wants to do. Even coming into the game today, Evans didn't have a great game last week. You kind of knew he was going to get Evans involved. I knew it. You knew it. Everybody knew it. Nobody could stop it. And I just think if Brady wants Gronk, as long as the guy stays healthy, I think it's possible, man. So, all right, going to move on to the next game. Wow, another great game, another great performance in this game. Talk about the Tennessee-Seattle game. Man, it was probably I had so much fun watching this game today. I think one stat I want to bring up, I don't even know where Derrick Henry finished at for sure. I don't want to switch off my screen, but I do know at like halftime he had like 13 carries for 35 yards. Ended up with like almost 50 fantasy points today. What a game. Your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, it was Derrick Henry. He finished with 182 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's, just ridiculous. That's a weak record for sure. And what was the other one I had? I can't find it. Oh, Lockett, Tyler Lockett. He's, it's another guy where, I did have that take where, all these guys, these receivers are getting drafted behind. He was getting drafted like 13 spots behind DK Metcalf. And so far through 2 weeks, it hasn't even been close who the number 1 receiver in Seattle is. So I don't necessarily think that continues throughout the year, but hey, we know that Russell Wilson has that rapport with Lockett and loves throwing him the ball. I mean, I think it's going to be a lot like this. I mean, DK can still have long ones here and there, but I feel like the attention's shifted to him and Lockett's just reaping the benefits.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually really happy you told me, you put me on the Lockett before the season. I picked him up in a few leagues and I've been loving that. My biggest thing, my two biggest things, I guess, are Derrick Henry, obviously. Not just because of his yards. We all know he's got 35 attempts today. I mean, we all know he's going to get a huge amount of carries, but he had 6 catches for 55 yards as well. And the Titans, I'm pretty sure preseason said they wanted to get him more involved in the passing game. And I think that's something to keep an eye on moving forward. 6 catches is 6 points. I mean, that's a touchdown. So, I mean, if he can do something like that week in and week out, I mean, that's just huge added value, in my opinion, to his stock.
I didn't see him drop any either. Was that on 6 targets?
I don't have the targets in front of me, unfortunately, but yeah, I'm not too sure about that.
I mean, every time, because I watched most of the game. I mean, dude, he was catching everything too. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, yeah, like I said, that's a huge factor. Another thing is Tannehill's been a little disappointing to me for the first 2 weeks. He didn't play horrible today or anything like that. It's
that's
just
what's so annoying. His numbers are good too. It's the same thing. It's like, what's happening on these drives? It's probably just the fact that they're handing the ball off 40 times. But
yeah,
I mean,
he threw for 40 was like 15 or 2
today.
Yeah, he threw for 40. He threw 27 of 40 for 347 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks.
Yeah. I feel like the touchdowns will come though. I mean, like he's getting that chemistry with Julio now, and I don't know. I just think they'll come along eventually. And like Taylor Lewan, they lose him for this game. That kind of makes some kind of difference there, even though he was just getting torched last week. So I have a good feeling about Tannehill going forward. Today was a little more reassuring, especially like I said, that chemistry with Julio kind of popping up. Worried about AJ Brown though? Anybody?
I am. I've always been worried about him.
I have been too. Again, it was another one that ADP. I don't know why he's going middle, top of the second round. I mean, I know he's a young guy and you like him and all that, but Julio's on the other side of the ball.
Yeah,
I mean, it took 1 week for Julio to be the number one receiver.
Which I said. I remember Dynasty Owl looked at me like I was crazy when I said I think Julio might be the best receiver on this team this season. Only 2 weeks. The drops for AJ Brown today. I know he looks the part. In Dynasty, I'm not fading him too much. I get it, man. He's still a young guy. But for this season, man, I think Julio's the best wide receiver. It was a feel-good game to see Julio out there too. Looked good. I'm sure there'll be some weeks where it's a lot closer between those two. But man, for me, I felt like Tannehill, he was dropping back and he was looking for Julio, man. And that's what I thought, months ago that, I'd said if I was Ryan Tannehill and I was dropping back and I'm looking, my first read's going to be Julio, man. And that seems to be the case. I mean, besides first read, give it to Derrick Henry anyway.
Right.
Which is a good option, a great option, by the way.
Absolutely.
So, all right, going to move on to the last game here. We got the Dallas Chargers game. I almost don't even want to talk about this game because I know where we're going with this, and it kind of hurts. A little concerned, man. Like, I know me and you spoke, Evan, right before the season ended. You asked me, should you be concerned about Zeke? And I told you flat out, no, he'll be good to go. Tony Pollard's looked really good. Outscored him, I think, in both games now. Your guys' thoughts on this game? Zeke, Pollard, go ahead. Give me the business, man.
I mean, I still think Zeke's fine. That's the thing. I mean, people shouldn't be shocked when Tony Pollard comes in and looks faster. He's faster. Like, it's just going to look different. He's got a different gear that Zeke doesn't have. But, I mean, he still had, Zeke had like 18, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, yeah, Pollard outscored him, but, I mean, he's still the starting back. He's still getting, a lot of touches. He can still be productive. So, I mean, he's not getting you 30 points, but it's not like he's throwing out goose eggs like last week. Last week was was more game plan based, though, I feel. I will say about this game, a little disappointed in Dak's performance and Herbert's performance. I know Herbert statistically didn't look too bad, but just watching the game, I didn't love what I saw. And I will say too, Austin Eckler, I feel a lot better about his prospects. It was weird last week that he didn't even have a catch. This week, 9 catches, back to what we're used to from Eckler. So another a nice little 22-point game from him. More of the same that we're used to from him. So I think as long as he can stay healthy, that's what he's going to do every week. So that's a good sign.
Yeah. So Doc, I got some stats for you that might surprise you here.
Okay.
So the carry breakdown this week: Zeke 16 for 71, Tony Pollard 13 carries for 109 yards. So that's
right.
It's almost dead even. I mean, I wouldn't say dead even, but
it's
Tony
close,
Pollard
for sure.
3 catches, Zeke 2 catches. I was not worried about Zeke after week 1. After this week, I'm a little more worried just based off of how many touches they're giving Tony Pollard and how well he's doing with those touches.
Right.
It'd be one thing if Tony Pollard comes in and gets 13 carries for, 45, 50 yards and nothing, but he had 109 yards and a touchdown. Right. I don't know. I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried about Zeke. I'm still not that worried.
I will say,
I guess that's the best way I put it.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like realistically, the touches are similar, but in terms of like where you drafted him, yeah, and in that case, I would be worried just because he's going to be capped now. Pollard's looked so good. I mean, he's definitely forcing his way into the offense. So yeah, Zeke's probably going to be capped, but even then, if he can manage, 18 points a game, 15 points a game, something like that, it's not what you wanted from your top 5 guy, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's a running back, you can start every week still.
Right. And I just think, in the past, that's been one of the luxuries of being a Zeke owner, just a guy that dominated the backfield carries. Right. It wasn't really a committee. And after these first 2 weeks, man, it's just looking like it's going to be a little bit more of a committee in Dallas. But I'm with you, Doc, man. I still think Zeke, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna get your points, but I'm just worried about the 30, the dominating games that we've seen from him.
Right. Yeah, I think it'll be a little more rare than it used to be, for sure.
Yeah, and the eyeball test, man. Pollard's looked good, man. He has, which has concerned me. But we'll see, man. I'm not giving up on my guy. That's gonna do it for today's episode. We went around all the games. We'll be back Tuesday. We're going to be doing a waiver wire show. I have some good waiver wire pickups for you guys. Make sure you come check that out. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you could hit the like and subscribe button, come be a part of the Masters family. We'd love to have you. Any last words, guys?
No.
Good.
All right, thanks for watching and listening, folks.
Talk to you guys soon.